Hello, good evening. Welcome to our final Testimonies and Tea session. It's been a good couple of sessions. We hope you guys have enjoyed. We hope that you guys have enjoyed the discussions. You've learned something, that you've been encouraged spiritually. So obviously today is our last session. And we are talking about representing God in our relationships. So I'm going to call up my panel, my speakers for the day, guys. You can turn your cameras on, unmute yourselves, let the beautiful people see you. And because obviously, you know, we're all grown here, I'm going to allow you guys to introduce yourselves, tell people your name, why you're on this call, and just a little bit about yourselves. We'll start with Vimbai because she's first on my camera.
Hi guys, my name is Vimbai. I am 24 years old. I'm currently working as a site manager. I'm a civil site engineer. Recently started that and recently finished my studies. And yeah, I'm on the call today to talk about representing God in our relationship.
Thank you. Alan?
Hello, my name is Alan Chigado. I'm a programmer slash UX UI designer. And yeah, I'm here on the panel to talk about relationships as well. What else?
Anything else you want to impress us with?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Sophie?
Hi guys, my name is Sophie Mizamido. I am in South Africa. I am 23. You asked for age, right?
Listen, sis, if you're willing to give, feel free.
Okay, I'm 23 and I'm studying law at the moment. Yeah.
Very good. Hopefully we'll have a couple of other people joining us a bit later. They should be joining us in stream. But for now, these are the beautiful faces that are going to be talking to you about representing God in your relationship. If you're watching live, please do comment if you've got any questions you want to ask. If you just want to have a discussion, I'm going to try and be looking at both. If you see me looking at my phone, I'm still in the zone. I'm just trying to make sure I can see your comments and questions coming through. So, guys, how are you feeling?
Nervous.
Good.
All right.
Fine. You'll have a great time. You'll have a brilliant time. I'm going to start you off easy. I think it's easy. So this is a conversation, I can't lie. I've had this conversation many, many times, and I'm not going to give my opinion. I probably will, but I'll try to keep quiet. But asking you guys specifically, do you guys believe in the one? Or would you say that it was more of a situation that you found somebody that you had a good connection with and then an attraction developed from there? Or would you say that you were kind of given what? Oh, hey, hello, Nonsi, just in time. Nonsi, hello. You've arrived just in time. Before I repeat my question, can you please just introduce yourself to our viewers?
My name is Nonsi.
You do.
Oh, sorry. I've just finished. I'm an architecture student.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just asked these guys the question. I'm asking this one open to everybody. I will pick on people if I need to. So Nonsi and everybody else, do you guys believe in the one, as in God made a perfect person for you and that's who you found? Or would you say that you just found somebody that you had a good connection with and you developed an attraction from that point?
Did you want me to answer it?
Not, you see, now I've heard your voice first. Yes, Nonsi, I would like you to answer.
Because I thought you wanted me to answer it. So I was like, I don't believe that there's like the one, because like no one's really like completely there, if you know what I mean. So I feel like you find someone that you will have a connection with, and over time you actually work to become the one for them, or they work to be the one in that sense. So there's just like a lot of work involved, really. So you can never be like everything already, if you know what I mean.
Okay, that's good. Anybody else want to add?
I think if you say the one, we're kind of limiting God, right? So I believe that God has got a perfect match for each and every one of us, wherever we are. So if I say I believe in the one, we're just saying God has only made one person for us. That means if that one person happens to be in Philippines, or in Malaysia, and I live in the UK, then what, right? So I believe that God gives us the perfect match and someone who can grow to love and to appreciate based on where we are. That's what I believe.
That's a very, very good answer. Would you be willing to travel then to find your potential true love? Like, is this a sort of thing that you think people should be doing cross global for? Should I go to the Philippines? Because maybe there is one connection out there that I've not found in the Philippines. Would you guys suggest that people get up and travel, or is it a kind of wait for him to turn up for you or her?
Okay, well, I think if you want to have a relationship with someone and represent God, I obviously feel like you need to have a relationship with God first. So sometimes God will push you to make certain decisions to maybe lead you to that person. Personally, I don't think there's like different ones, like God gave you the ones. I think obviously if you're right with God and you're in the process with God and you're doing what God is asking for you to do, I think he'll definitely lead you to someone that will be your match. That's my opinion.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, now let's look at specifically the topic of discussion, representing God in your relationship. So I guess one question, would you say that God is concerned with your relationship, in the sense that if we look at it in biblical times, people didn't really date? It was just kind of, my dad saw you, he thought you were good looking, he paid, and then now I'm living with you forever. There was no such thing as boyfriend, girlfriend. Even now, if I tried to tell my grandma I had a boyfriend, she like, I think she didn't even know what the word was. She was just looking at me, the boyfriend, what's that? Because it's not a thing, it's just something that we've made up. So would you say that relationship specifically is something that God actually cares about? Or is it more just the end goal of marriage, as in that's God's main concern, that you find yourself a husband, that you find yourself a wife? Vimbai, you've been very quiet.
I think the reason why it was that way, it was because of that culture at that certain time. So it worked perfectly that, arranged marriages. And I still believe in this day and age, other people are still doing arranged marriages and it's still working great for them. So whoever is doing it, I don't speak against it, but our cultures are now different. I mean, I think it just depends with you as a parent. I don't think my dad will go and be like, I found a guy for you. It's just not for him, if that makes sense. So I think principle is what we need to stick to. So in the way we're doing things now, I mean, I find someone, I just have to stick to God's principle.
Okay. As we're waiting for Fari to come back, so Vimbai or anyone on the panel, would you trust your parents to arrange your marriage?
It's something I've never really thought about, but I don't think I would. I would trust that as they were praying for the person that will marry me, that was good enough. So I don't see them going out there to find the right person for me. So
okay. Anyone else? Nonsi, trust your mom to arrange your marriage?
Yeah, actually, I trust my mom to do that for me.
Okay.
Because I know, I think she knows me. She knows what's good for me, so I'd trust my mom.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Obviously, you guys have a relationship together, so
yeah, I think that's what's important, to have that relationship. Then she will know and recognize what's good for me and what isn't. Because I think as well, she looks outside of me in the sense that like if I am not as kind as I think I am, she will know like she will just be like, she will know, how do I express this? Basically that she can see me and my character completely. So she will know, okay, Nonsi can be like this, so she will need someone like that. But I trust my mom, and I think it really starts with that relationship.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, I've only had Vimbai's point of view in terms of, do you think God cares about the person that you're with? Because, I mean, personally speaking, I've experienced quite a lot in my relationship to the point where I feel God definitely cares who I'm in my relationship. It's not just a case of fast track to marriage. We all go through different journeys in our relationship. So Sophie, you're nodding your head. Do you have any input on this?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, when you are with someone, you guys sort of become like-minded. You do the same things. You like the same things, obviously, because you'll be in a relationship with that person, and you end up sort of picking up traits and characteristics from each other. So I definitely feel like if you are with someone that can influence you negatively, that could be a concern. And I definitely think God definitely says, or I mean, he would hope for us to make good decisions so that we are with people that help us grow, help us, love more, or help us take negative traits out and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Sorry, Nonsi, you got something to say?
Oh yeah, I was also gonna say like I truly believe that God really cares about your relationships, and like speaking from mine, like I feel like being in that relationship can help you, like I think being in a good relationship can help you actually come closer to God. So I think God is concerned about the people that you actually surround yourself with. And in a way, then the question would become, does God actually care about anything else that happens in my life? Because when you're in a relationship, like, it's just the same as, does God care if I, do this course at uni, or does God care if I am upset because, something happened, like that may seem minuscule. Like, I think God does like care about the people we surround ourselves with. So yeah, I think he would care about your relationship. Definitely.
Okay, thank you. Alan, you are our only Fari. You just came back. I'm just going to say one question and then you can take over. Alan, you are currently our own male representative here, so you're speaking for all the men in the world. No, I'm joking, no pressure. But I mean, in terms of, obviously you're in a relationship with a lovely lady. Did you take time out? Sorry.
I knew it was coming. Yeah, no worries.
The screen. Did you take time out to consider the lady that you're with? Did you take time out to pray and be like, you know what, because God cares about my relationships, I need to really pray for this relationship that I'm about to get into with this lovely young lady?
Definitely. So I'll just go back a little bit. Growing up, my grandmother used to tell me that whenever you are trying to find a partner or a wife, right? If you're praying once, pray 5 times more, and make sure that wherever you choose or whoever you are with, it's God who led you there, and not presenting that person to God saying, God, accept my offering or accept my partner. So what do I mean? We should understand that God is the author of relationships, pretty much. He's the one with the manual. So if you want a good relationship that doesn't give you headaches, or that doesn't make you have heartbreaks or etc., etc., then we need to pray to God for him to lead you to the right person. So, at times, obviously, I tried many relationships, trying to talk to some people I thought they were the one for me. And as soon as you start talking to them, you actually realize, nah, this won't work. This won't work. This won't work. Or you actually realize that it won't work when they reject you. And then later on, you're like, oh, this was God actually dodging a bullet for me, And At that time, you would have thought, maybe, you know, they don't find me attractive or blah, blah, blah. But actually, God sometimes uses those situations to make you realize that he's the one in control. And I think the problem we have as the youths is we tend to do things ourselves, use our own manual. And then once we're now in the relationships, things are not moving well. And then we say, God, this is my person, make them right, or make them, you know, make them perfect for me. But if we had gone to God initially, then we wouldn't have those headaches. So coming back to your question, yes, I did pray about my relationship, and I listed what I was looking for, but I didn't tell God that this is the person I want, right? I just gave God my requirements, and he is the one who presented someone to me, and those requirements and my values, they're aligned, and I'm pretty much happy where I am currently.
Okay, thank you very much, Alan. That was a very good answer. Sorry, I had a little basically one of my family members thought they were technical geniuses and tried to fix something that wasn't broken. But we're back, and Andile, also thank you for joining us. So I had a follow-up question based, oh wait, it's gone. Of what you said, Alan. Oh yes, no, I remember. Okay, so a follow-up question on what Alan has just stated. So would you then say that if I prayed and if I let God lead the way to my relationship, that there is then no need for a trial and error process? Like if I've asked God to give me my boyfriend, that person I'm now dating will then have to be my husband? Or is it a case of even if I ask God to lead it, there will still be a case of trial and error?
For me, okay. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for everyone else. Why go through that whole trial and error process if God can give you someone the first time round? You get what I mean? Okay, let me put it this way. Why waste your time and your energy and your resources on a trial and error, as we call it? I think when I was growing up, we used to call it in vernacular in Shona mahumbwe, right? Which is kind of like you just, there's no direction. Why go through that whole process when you could just ask God for someone who is dedicated, who is serious, and be happy, right? There's no point of me saying, you know what, God, I need the experience in a relationship. So let's do a try and error and let's do all these things. And then later on, when I'm like 26, 27, 28, you give me the right person, I'll have experience in dealing with relationships. Why go through that whole process? I don't think that's the ideal process that God wants for us in relationships. God wants us to be happy. God wants us to have someone that we can build a life with, someone that can draw us closer to him. And the reason why there are many trial and errors is because we consult God at a later stage in the relationship. We don't consult God at the very beginning, like I was saying. And that's why, hence, we have all these trial and errors.
Very good answer. Okay, Andile, I'm going to put you on the spot because I can and I have the power. Would you say, first of all, hi, it's very nice to meet you. Would you say when it comes to dating, should every relationship, I mean, I guess Alan kind of touched on this, but should every relationship that we're in have the intention for marriage? Or can you have certain relationships that are there to say, to teach you something? So I mean, personally, I've had some lesson learning relationships in the past, but should you only be getting in a relationship for the purpose of marriage, or can a relationship have a different purpose? What do you think? Anyone else can answer this afterwards, by the way. I'm just letting Andile lead.
Oh, I mean, are you saying should we get into relationships for the purpose of learning a lesson? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so should a relationship only have the purpose of marriage, or can a relationship have other benefits that are not necessarily marriage?
Wait, when you say other benefits, what do you mean?
But I mean specifically the learning the lesson thing. So some boyfriends you have, or some boyfriends I've had, have taught me certain things that I don't need in my life, or certain things that I can't tolerate. So say, I know I can't, now that I've dated someone who's messy, I now know I can't date a messy person. Do you get what I mean?
Okay, but when you get into the relationship, are you thinking, I'm getting in this to learn something so that in the future I will be ready to marry someone else? Or are you getting into a relationship thinking this might be the person, but then you find out whilst you're in the relationship that it's not the person?
I can't lie, sometimes I'm just bored. Okay.
I mean, it depends how old you are. When we were like 13, 14, 15, no one was thinking about getting married. Relationships just seemed like a thing that people did. But we weren't meant to be getting into relationships at that age anyway, but we did it because that's what we saw other people doing. But let's speak from, I don't know how old everyone else is, but I've gone past the threshold. So I'm now closer to 30 than I am to 19, for example. So at this age, I'm not getting into a relationship thinking I might learn a lesson from this, or this might not be the person for me. Because I always say we're not young enough to be rushing things, but we're not old enough to waste other people's time either. We're not old enough to be rushing things, but we're not young enough to be wasting other people's time. So at a certain age, every relationship you go into should be you thinking, okay, potentially I may marry this person. So before you get into the relationship, you have to ask yourself those questions. Like, do I really see myself spending the rest of my life with this person? And which is why it's really important to have to get to know somebody really well before you get into the relationship that you're getting into. Otherwise, you will do this thing where you're getting to know people in a relationship, and then you then discover, oh, I'm not going to marry that person. And then by the time you discover that, you've wasted 2-3 years, and then you're going to start again. Like I said, at the age that most of us are at, I don't want to like put an age to people because that's not what I want to do. But at the age that I'm at, that's not what I'm trying to do at this point.
So you're saying you should know the person before you start a relationship?
Yeah, like you should at least know that you're compatible in the big things. Like there's little things like the person may be a little bit messy, or I don't know, they don't keep schedules like you do, for example, right? But those are things that you can tolerate, or things that you can change here and there. Yeah, but they're not like really big things. But in the fundamentals, like what you believe, how you want to live your lives, what you want to do in the future, you have to be aligned. Otherwise, if you're not, then there's no point in starting that relationship because it won't end well, and you've just wasted each other's time.
Okay, very good. Anybody else want to add? Vimbai, I see you've unmuted.
Can you repeat the question again? Because I feel like
so the question generally was, should a relationship always have the intention of marriage, or can you just be in a relationship for the sake of learning or growing, but not necessarily with marriage at the end goal?
Well, I'm going to be very careful as to how I give my answer. So first of all, what my mom always used to tell me growing up was, if you're going to be in a relationship, this was around 17, 18, by the way, not very young. When you're going to go into a relationship, I mean, the first question you have to ask yourself, what's the intent of that relationship? I'm not going to lie, when I was 17, 18, it was because all my friends had someone. So of course I wanted to be with someone, so we can just, say, oh, we've been talking about this, we've been doing this, we've been going where, etc. But it wasn't to do with the end goal being marriage. However, I think the first question you have to ask yourself is it God's will for me to be married before I start this relationship? That's how I see it, because I don't think everyone is going to get married. So before you even start thinking, okay, I'm looking at this person, is it God's will for me to get married? If the answer is yes, then prepare yourself to be with that, to be ready for whoever that person is. You don't even need to know who that person is. Bear in mind, I say this is what my mom has been telling me from that very young age. So prepare yourself, get to know yourself, who you are for who you are. Get into a relationship with God, personal relationship with God, understand who God is for you, who he is to you. Start building, if there was a bad relationship with your siblings, your parents, start building into that, get into a good relationship with them. And then God will speak to you, will reveal to you if you are supposed to be in a relationship. So I feel if you were to be in a relationship with someone, for me, of opposite sex, then the intent should be marriage, or else we are wasting each other's time. However, if the intent is marriage, it doesn't necessarily mean that the two of us are going to end up being married. Then that's where courtship comes in, where you're earnestly and honestly, sincerely getting to know that person for who they are, and you showing them who you are, and then you come to a conclusion. That's why if you were to do it that way, I think there wouldn't be heartbreaks in the end, because you've been honest from the beginning. We're trying to see where we're going to go to. And then if it's not going to work, if it's not going to be marriage, yeah.
That was some very good advice. I've never actually thought of it that way. Thank you very much, Vimbai. Alan, you wanted to say something?
Okay. I was basically saying that as individuals, we should know ourselves as individuals before even getting ourselves into relationships or any, like they like to call it these days, entanglements. Because the problem is most of the people, they get into relationships to seek validation from others, right? Hence, you find yourself in a situation where you're now learning lessons you are not supposed to learn in the first place, simply because you don't know yourself as an individual. Like someone said that, you Farid, you actually said that you discovered that you don't like messy people when you're in a relationship. These are some things you can figure out yourself before even getting into a relationship, right? You don't need someone to show you that you don't like something or validate things in your life in a relationship. There are certain things whereby as an individual, I think growing up, we didn't understand this when most of our parents or even teachers for boys who went to boarding school or stuff like that, they'll tell you, yeah, you're still young for relationships, blah, blah, blah. And you'll be like, yeah, you know what? I want to be in a relationship also. Everyone is in a relationship. We need to experience these lessons, right? But at that age, we don't fully know ourselves. We don't even know exactly what we really want, right? From ourselves or in a relationship. So I feel like until you reach a certain point whereby you know yourself as an individual and you're comfortable with who you are, it makes it easier for you to be in a relationship and to decipher people that will give you lessons or people that will be good partners for you in a relationship moving forward. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, this is very good. Okay, Sophie, I can't lie, I miss your voice. So I'm coming.
I was just about to say I have a question before we move on.
Go for it. Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. Before you ask your question,
okay.
Dylan said in the comments on YouTube, he said, yes, the purpose is and should be for marriage. Would you invest money in business for fun? No, it's with the idea that you want to make money. Intentions are everything. So just wanted some advice for you there. Sorry, Sophie, go ahead.
Okay, I have a question for you guys, because I'm hearing you guys, speak about knowing yourself and things like that. What if you at a point where you know yourself, you've prayed for this relationship, you think, okay, maybe you've done everything that you needed to do to be in this relationship, and it ends up badly? Because I think not everyone goes into relationships thinking it's just a phase, or it's just a guy. Some people actually really do see someone they're going to be with for life, or see someone that they're going to, that they can build with. And that's just my question, or I don't know. Do
you know, it's great that you said that, because I was thinking, you know what, I think at the beginning, this is when people actually need to be honest about their intentions. Because I feel like a lot of the time people are afraid to say, okay, like imagine if you're, because I know like sometimes if, let's say, a random guy came to you and said, right, I want to marry you, so let's start dating, and then you'd be like, like why how do you already know? But I think at the beginning, I think it's very good for people to actually sit down and talk about what their intentions are for the relationship, so that one person is not thinking, yes, this is the one I'm going to marry, and the other person's thinking, oh, I'm here to learn a lesson, and that's it, I'm gonna go. And I think it's very important to state your intentions. And also, I wanted to comment on the question about getting into whether, like, it makes sense to get into a relationship, or like to do to learn a lesson, and versus getting into a relationship with the intention of getting married. I think it's very unproductive to decide that you're gonna just waste time. I feel like all that energy, you can invest it in other things. You can invest it in developing your own ministry for God. You can invest that energy in, doing all the things that you want to do, achieving all your goals, rather than like wasting time. I think when you know that your intention is to be in a relationship that is serious and there's no wasting time, there won't be any need to go into other relationships, because you'll have that conversation and you will know this person is looking at me like a lesson, a teacher, a life lesson. So I don't want to waste my time. And then you will just find someone who's actually serious about you, so you don't have to go through any heartbreak. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Nonsi. Alan, you wanted to speak?
Yes, I want to add on to what Nonsi said. Wait, what did you say, Nonsi, in the beginning? Sorry.
I said that people need to have a conversation about their
yeah, exactly. Thank you. I'll take it from there. So I think the reason why sometimes everyone has got good intentions, especially for the girls. 95% of ladies, when they get in relationships, they're serious about them, right? But unfortunately, most people, they don't have the so-called difficult conversations at the very beginning of the relationship. So like what Nonsi was saying, what are your goals as an individual? What are your goals as a couple moving forward? What's the whole purpose of this whole relationship we are starting? And also, what are the boundaries, right? What do you believe in? What do I believe in? So when you have those kind of conversations, right? And even talking about, let's say, do you believe in having a family? You might have someone who is perfectly fine and, they're very happy and you are happy with them. And then all of a sudden, after 1.5 years of getting into a relationship with that person, they tell you they don't want to have kids. Then what, right? So there are certain things whereby, especially at our age right now, it's an age whereby you need to know everything at the very beginning. Have those difficult conversations. That way, yes, the heart is deceitful and things happen, but at least when they do happen, you are not as hurt as if you didn't talk about them. Because at that point, when it happens, you'll be like, you know what? This is God actually dodging me from a bullet. But if you don't have these discussions and then you just go in blindly and you're like, oh, we'll figure it out. We're just loving each other, blah, blah, blah. Then you always have all these problems creeping in the end. Even talking about your past sometimes helps. Obviously, you don't want to disclose everything at the very beginning because some pasts are sensitive, but just giving that person an idea, if you're going to be in the relationship and you know that your past is going to creep in later on into our relationship, then it's better off we discuss about certain things at the very beginning. And if I choose to move forward with that person after knowing what I know about them, after them knowing what they know about me, it makes it easier when all these so-called past creep into the relationship in the future, then you're not affected, you're not hurt, because you already know these things. But I think it's difficult. That's what I'm saying. It depends on, there's certain things you cannot talk about when you don't really know that person. But just having, I think the whole point of this rambling I'm doing is communication is key. If you don't have solid communication at the very beginning, then it's going to be difficult to have solid communication when things start happening, right? So, yeah.
Do you know, I like the fact that you said candid conversations are like very important. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that at the beginning, if you say everything, that may be difficult. You've got nothing to lose because they don't know you, okay? Like, so what can they do? Do you know what I mean? But anyway, that's just my view. But I feel like it's very important to mention your intentions, and also to be, I don't know, like to know like how serious you're gonna take it, because you know it's you're gonna be accountable for, you know, wasting people's time and hurting people. So you need to actually think things through before you go into a relationship, you know.
Okay, just before I move on to the next question, one piece of advice that I learned from television, but I think it's very good advice, is to never get into a relationship with somebody knowing that you have opposing views but expecting them to change their mind in the future, because you're expecting them to change their mind and they're expecting you to change your mind, and what's going to happen is you're together for 5 years and it turns out they still don't want kids. So I think that kind of ties in with the whole communication thing, that it's about open communication and believe what you're told, because yes, sometimes people do change their minds, but more often than not, you're setting yourself up for a lot of unnecessary struggles in the future. Okay, so Sophie, I know you said you live in South Africa, and your partner, where does he live?
He lives in Zim at the moment.
Okay, so South Africa and Zim, how, I mean, obviously long distance has its challenges. What made you decide, first of all, that it was worth the struggles of long distance? How did you decide that it was worth it?
To be honest, prayer. I'm kidding. But no, I think it was just a conversation that I had with God. And I think like also sometimes you're not prepared for it, but sometimes God encourages you. So for me, that's just my opinion. And also I feel like at the time, long distance was probably the best thing for us, because it gave me a chance to focus on myself while being in a relationship as well. And I mean, before lockdown, we did see each other. Well, yeah, we did see each other often and all those things. But for me, it worked. And also I was in school and all these things. So yeah.
Would you say, did you guys start off long distance, or was it you were together and then circumstances happened that caused the long distance?
No, from the beginning, it was long distance.
Okay, so what advice would you give to people who are considering beginning a long distance relationship?
Honestly, it's prayer, because it's very difficult. Well, any relationship is difficult, but I think, yeah, I personally believe long distance relationships are even more difficult.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. But we praise God, it's working. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So Nonsi, I know you said you studied architecture and your boyfriend was studying medicine. Yeah, I can't lie. Those are two very, very difficult degrees. And I mean, for me personally, if I was dating, if both of us were this busy, I would start looking at it like a long distance relationship.
Yeah, like, it pretty much is.
How's that going?
I think like what really helps is the fact that we're committed to actually spending time communicating, like no matter what happens. So like we may not see each other often, but we like make it a thing, like to speak at least every single day in the evening, like to finish our day just knowing everyone's alive and everyone's okay. And yeah, that's how we manage it. So it's also because we're living in different cities as well. So I think it's just making it a point to value that time that you spend together. Because I know some people say, you know, we may not want to, you know, speak, you know, I may not need to speak to my boyfriend every week, but because we don't see each other often and we're off like really, really busy, we actually make it a thing that we will call every night, you know, just to check in on each other and, you know, tell each other what's going on, etc. And then when we do see each other, it's great, you know. So yeah, it's making that decision that yes, no matter what, we will speak. Yeah.
Love to hear that. How long have you guys been together, if you don't mind me asking?
Like
Guesstimate.
Like over a year and a half now.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of time, there's obviously people have different opinions as to when to announce a relationship. So you have the Instagram couples who are, you know, we've been together 30-minute anniversary celebration. There's other couples who you'll find out they were together at their wedding day. So, I mean,
someone will call you and say, "Can I have a babysitter?"
Yeah, like you have different couples with their different announcement times. So I'm opening this up to the group. What advice would you give to people who are maybe in new relationships? Like, would you say it's a good idea to advertise a relationship as early as possible? Would you say cross over the honeymoon stage first? Would you say, you know, silence is the best policy? I'm gonna open it up to everyone. Andy, you've been very quiet for a long time. We'll go to you.
When did I become everyone? Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, sorry. I just wondering when I became everyone. It depends, guys. People make money from relationships these days. You want to be an Instagram couple, people need to see happiness. So do you? I say do what makes you feel comfortable. But just be wary of the fact that things can go badly. Like I remember, like somebody said before, I don't know who was saying it, like you may go into the relationship with all the best intentions, but things may not end the way you want them to. And that's something that we have to accept. Like we can't say that everything is going to end up well, because some things don't, and you have to treat your relationships like that. So if you're going to be public, expect people to ask you questions after, like, so what happened? And you have to be willing to then share your lessons from that, because you've made your relationship public. So we all deserve to know what going, right? Like we all deserve to know what's happened in between the sequence there. And if you're not prepared to share like the end of the relationship, just don't share the beginning. Just let people know you're in a relationship, but just keep it to yourself. But yeah, but do what makes you comfortable. I'm not out here telling people not to do certain things. Just do you.
Okay, Alan, you want to add something?
Yeah, I totally agree with Andile. If you're gonna publicize your, okay, let me rephrase this. If you're in a relationship, right, when your relationship is too secretive that no one needs to know, even people around you or even your family members, then that's a red flag, right? At least there should be people that should be there in your corner to keep you accountable in terms of even the choices you are making. Because sometimes you might see things that, they might see things that you don't. And if your relationship is that secretive, then I tend to wonder. But at the same time, there are those couples that like to, you know, show their people, their persons on Instagram or social media in general, right? I don't have anything against that. But once you start doing that, you should also know that people are going to be invested in your relationship. Even people you don't know, even people you don't talk to. So if we invest our likes on your pictures and your stories, your holidays, when things go wrong, when we ask, don't be offended, because, you know, that's human nature, because we have invested in the fantasy you have been showing us. So we also want to know the downs and the ups. That's why I also agree with some people who like keeping their relationships a bit secretive or a bit out of the public up until they're comfortable doing so, or even up until marriage. Some people will not post their partner or their girlfriends or boyfriends up until maybe lobola is done or engagement or whatever. And it's fine as well. So you have to be comfortable with whatever choice you make, but just know that every choice you make, there are repercussions or there are good and bad consequences to every action. Yeah.
Very good answer. Okay, so coming on to the next portion of our discussion. Andile, I know you and your partner have a ministry that you guys do together. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Let's talk about it. Yeah, that's what it's called. Facebook at Let's Have Conversations, because Let's Talk About was taken. But the main thing about it is just having conversations that we don't normally have in church, because people are usually too politically correct to sort of like have certain conversations nowadays. It's just bridging that gap between different people, different generations, just making sure everybody starts talking and seeing if we can change the way things are happening. Because lockdown has given us the best opportunity to reimagine what church is like. So yeah, that's what we do. Season 2 is starting again in September, so look out for that. So
yeah. So I'm gonna direct the question to you first, but obviously, as always, everybody and anybody can answer. When it comes to involving God in or reflecting God in your relationship in terms of ministry or in terms of however else you do it, how important would you say it is for, like, how important would you say it is for you to take active steps to be reflecting God in your relationship as well as in your ministry? And how easy is it for you to mix the two? So obviously private, personal relationship life and then your ministry life, how essential or easy is it to mix the two different things together?
When you say mix them together, what do you mean?
So like, for example, you and your partner have a relationship and you're also doing a ministry together. So obviously the two, you could be doing them separately, but instead you're doing them together. How easy is it to combine the two?
I think it depends on the people. But if you're with somebody and you're sort of like interested in something, especially something that's not like your full-time job or something like ministry, you kind of have to align in a certain way so that you're doing the same things. Because if you're doing different things, then it's very disjointed and one person's doing one thing, one person's doing the other. So it's a lot better if you can find someone that's doing the same thing that you're doing, or you're willing to do what they're doing. That way you're sort of like a more united front and you're tackling sort of like one thing with two heads rather than one thing with one head and one thing with another head. But you just have to know yourselves and know your roles in that venture, and then in your relationship, and try and keep them as separate as possible. There's a professional side of things, and this is our relationship side. Some people can't work together effectively with their partners. Like, if you know you're the kind of person that just likes to do things on their own and not be told what to do and stuff, like, probably not the best idea to involve somebody in a relationship with, because it becomes really hard to separate the two things. But yeah, it's a lot of give and take, a lot of compromises, and just making sure that each person knows what their role is and everyone does what they're meant to do. Otherwise, it will end up putting a strain in your relationship. So yeah, that's basically it.
It's a very good answer. So yeah, I'll open it up to the floor. I'm gonna come to Vimbai because I can. So what active steps would you say you and your partner are taking to reflect God in your relationship?
So I think when people ask us about, so I do get a question, we do get this question a lot. What are you doing in terms of celibacy? Which is such a weird question to be the first question that you get asked by people. But I think what it is it gives me an opportunity to talk about the whole idea of setting boundaries. So you start talking about, you don't have to do physical stuff with your partner. It depends what your boundaries are, but we talk about, I don't want to waffle in this question, I just want to set it straight. So we talk to people straight, we agreed not to have sex before marriage simply because that was the ideal from the very beginning, and we can actually achieve this if we just stick to principle and be more open to talk to people. I mean, certain people actually don't see the problem now, so that's when you have to start going back to study about it with different people. You go into conversation, and then that way it can actually help others as well.
Just reminded me of another question I wanted to ask. Okay, bearing in mind, I mean, this is 100% a safe space, but we are also live on YouTube, so whatever is said, just know it's on the internet. Have you ever had a situation, and again, open honesty would be very much appreciated by our viewers, in which in your triangular relationship between you, your partner, and God, you've had a situation where you just didn't want to include God? So I guess the obvious one would be sex before marriage, but it can come into other things, whether it's morning devotion, whether it's plans for your future, whether it's wanting to go on holiday. Has there ever been a situation where what you and your partner want to do is conflicting with what God wants you guys to do? And if so, how have you overcome that particular challenge, and how would you advise people who may be going through the same thing to deal with that situation?
Is that directed to me or to everyone?
It's to everyone, but if you want to start it off, no problem.
I think from the very beginning, to be honest, we established that we'll make God the center of our relationship, and we have to be intentional about it. And this is based on the past experiences where we tried to balance the God life and the other life, where you want to balance both, but it all ended up not working. So we're trying to be intentional about it. Let's make every decision based on what God thinks is best for us. So far it's going great. So I wouldn't say there has been. However, the advice I would give is, if that wasn't the case in other relationships, I mean, there's nothing wrong with backtracking your decisions. You know what, start from scratch again. The relationship is not going anywhere. Let's do it this way this time. And God is always there. I mean, just because you've done a wrong thing before, or you haven't done it with him included, he's still there. He's still willing to be in the center of it also. That's my advice, really.
Very good. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that one? The silence is speaking volumes.
What was the question?
So the question was, in your triangular relationship with you, your partner, and God, have you ever had an instance where the decision that you and your partner want to make will need to remove God from this? So like, you don't want to move forward with God in this particular decision, and if so, how have you dealt with that situation? Or how would you advise others to deal with it if you haven't gone through it?
It depends what you're talking about. If the main thing that comes to mind in this situation is, it's mostly, if you're in a relationship with somebody, the main thing that comes is mostly sex before marriage, right? Mm-hmm. That's what most people are thinking. Or it could be, oh, we want to move somewhere, or we've decided we want to do ABC. But the main thing is how you keep yourself sexually pure before you get into a marriage relationship. And I think what people need to understand is, if you're in a relationship with somebody, you are going to be sexually attracted to them. And if you're not, that's a problem. Like, if you're spending time with your boyfriend or girlfriend and you feel nothing whatsoever, and there is no temptation to do anything whatsoever, I'm sorry, but there's a fundamental problem in that relationship, because you're not actually attracted to the person you're with. So once you understand that you're going to be attracted to the other person, then you have to start putting mitigating factors before that, so you don't get into a situation where you will end up doing something. because this is what people do. We end up doing something like, oh, we accidentally end up spending time on our own together, for example, right? Like that shouldn't ever happen because you know what's going to happen. And that's you purposefully sort of like stopping God from being in that picture because you know what is going to happen. And we all make these mistakes, especially like at the start of a relationship. And you just have to make sure that when you're in your relationships, just put barriers in place that will ensure that you continue to do what God wants you to do. And people like to pretend they're dumb or something just happened, but nothing ever just happens. It's just, what did you do in order to get to that place? And as Christians, we just have to be smart about things because there are certain situations you won't be able to get yourself out of. So don't put yourselves in those situations in the first place.
Okay, that's a very good answer. It reminds me a bit of what Jesus was saying when it comes to temptation and sin, and he says it's better for you to chop off your arm than for your whole body to not be saved. So it's kind of a like, if you like, just don't put yourself in a situation you don't need to be in. Like, yes, the holiday might be nice, but you don't need to go. You can very comfortably vacation on Zoom, comfortably doing video so it's all about intentionality, and don't put yourself in a situation that you can very easily avoid. Okay, so we're winding down a little bit because Tariq keeps messaging me and I'm aware of the time. I guess there's one concept that I've never really thought about, but would you say that God is interested in romance? Like, do you see God as a romantic kind of person? Does he care if you're buying your girlfriend flowers, or like, is there a God-like structure of how to do romance? Or is it something that we've just made up for ourselves and we've just decided it looked like fun? Yeah, Alan, sorry.
I'll answer this one, right? And I think we need to, when you're talking about things like, let's say, romance and some of these things, we need to also refer to the Bible. What does the Bible say, right? So I support 100% being romantic in every single way to your wife, right? Well, right now, the whole purpose of being in a relationship is to assess the person you are with, if they are worth to be your wife or your husband, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't appreciate your partner with just buying, certain things for them. Let's say on a special occasions like a birthday, right? You could buy also a cake, flowers, etc. But there are some people who actually will buy a car, right? Because they have the money to do so. So for me, there's a difference between, I think we confuse romance in a relationship with bribe. What do I mean? There are certain gestures where once you do them, that person you are with, they won't see you the same way. So if they came in the relationship with intentions of just knowing you, right? Once you start, let's say, buying them cars, right? Now they're more interested in, okay, so we are not talking about cars. What's next? They come to your house, they're now looking for some things that usually when you're in a relationship, they wouldn't look for, or they start acting a certain way towards you because you kind of bribe them, right? So appreciating your partner, I don't see anything wrong with it. But at the same time, I'm not obliged in a relationship to be full out romantic all the time, simply because the whole purpose of a relationship in the first place is for us to learn each other, for me to understand you, and for me in the end to be your husband or your wife. Then I can go all out in whatever I do. The other reason why most people are actually hurt, particularly guys, because guys are the ones who, who go all out in terms of romance, sometimes like buying cars, or I'm using cars as like the extreme, right? But buying certain gifts whereby once they break up, you now see the guy saying, yeah, we broke up. I need my ring. I need my I need my watch. You're now listing all these things because in a way, you're kind of admitting that when you bought these things, it was more of like you're buying them because you wanted something in return or a bribe of some sort. which in itself, for me personally, I believe that you can be appreciative of your partner or show that, you know, you appreciate or you like them or whatever, but going full romantic, let's have a candlelit dinner at my place, what for? What's going to happen afterwards? Now you're now leaning towards certain things that it's no longer romance, it's now more like romance with bribe in it, because once you give, there's something which needs to come back in return, and you're just creating yourself more problems. That's what I believe in.
I was gonna say, actually, I think it also depends on what you define as romance. But I believe that what God, okay, maybe this is just my opinion, but maybe what romance can be in a godly sense may not be extremely expensive gifts, but it's showing love and kindness and reflecting God's character in that relationship together. So how you treat each other, like, are you kind to each other? Do you truly honestly want to learn about the other person? Do you actually love them? And that in a way could be also a way that you represent God in your relationship. So you can do that through intentionally, like actually trying, like doing your best to treat your partner well. So it may not be buying them crazy gifts, but you know, that I don't know, maybe it's just me, but romance doesn't have to be like a car or something like that. I think it can just be feeling and knowing that the person is truly interested and invested in the relationship and cares about you. But yeah, that's just me anyway.
Actually, adding on to what Nonsi is saying, I think someone actually added that in the chat, that we need to understand people's love languages, right? So once you understand someone's love language, then you don't necessarily need to go all out to show that you love them or you appreciate them. In actual fact, I believe that when you're in a relationship before marriage, you should be able to satisfy or to be satisfied with your partner without anything extra, without the extras. When I mean extras is, you know, the premarital sex, the extravagant things, right? If you're satisfied with your partner without the extras, then when you get into marriage, the extras are just a bonus, right? But the problem is most of us, we've already given all the extras, and when you get into marriage, the only thing that's being reviewed are your flaws and not the extras. And then it creates more problems. So understanding your person's love language is also key, because there are certain people who just want to be appreciated through words. And because we have defined romance based on movies and based on what the world says, we end up doing certain things that in the end, they don't even benefit the relationship in the first place, but actually hinder us from knowing each other and from actually being God's children.
Thank you very much. Just a quick scroll through the YouTube comments. Dylan has quoted Matthew 7 verse 11. If you then being evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? And Tari pointed out what Alan, you said before as well. The problem is we see romance according to what movies and series and Insta couples tell us what romance is. And I think that's actually kind of what's been killing couples, especially this whole, relationship goals, which people have kind of put these couples on a pedestal because they're famous, and then all of a sudden you're hearing about entanglements and you're hearing about this, that, and the other happening behind closed doors. So it's kind of just a reminder for us to idolize your relationship and God, and that's how the best way to function is. So I guess now we've talked about the problems, or sort of the one side of romance. How then, as Christians and as Christian couples, be romantic and still represent God? How would you advise you being a romantic person and yet still reflecting God in that romance? just to read a quick comment from Dion. He says, God knows us all. He knows what we like and what we do not. He spent time putting us together, so he knows what moves us. Even after sin has had its way in us, God still knows us. Therefore, your partner should spend time getting to know you. Know the person God made you to be, the amazing individual that you are. Not what the world says is amazing or romantic, which is also very good advice. Okay, there we go.
All right. I was gonna say, like, who was the most romantic person in the Bible?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Solomon.
Huh?
Solomon? Yeah, romantic.
Did you say, Solomon wasn't romantic. No, Solomon wasn't romantic. No.
Emails at the same time.
He knew all the love languages.
Always in the sense that, you know, he met the needs of Ruth. He was providing what she was. Sorry, I'm just.
That's the lowest rung of the bar. You should.
I'm just funny.
Guys. But Jesus died, didn't it? Jesus died for us, so I'm sure if that was a plot in a movie, it'd be the most romantic one.
Okay. See, the Jesus answer is the one that we're going to get to, but the problem is we all put Solomon as like the most. He's the guy. Like Solomon had 300 wives and I don't know, like 3,000 concubines. Like somebody said, Solomon was a player. Like players can, like romance in a player sense is sort of like, okay, I can. Yeah, but that's the standard that we put that people have put up. Like those are the people that we idolize. Like, oh, I want to be like Solomon. I want to be able to, like, yeah. Solomon had to, like, do you think he knew all those women that he was with?
He knew them in the sense of the Bible that Adam knew. He knew them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes. He knew them in the sense of what the Bible means by knowing them. But like actually getting to know the person and actually like loving them for who they are, to the point that when Jesus said, if there was only one person who had sinned, he would have still come and died for everyone else. And I think Farid is frozen. But what does that mean? Am I still here?
Yep.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. It's
How long was I gone?
Yeah, I can hear.
How long was I gone?
I don't think you were gone. I think it was me.
Oh, okay. But yeah, it's just what was I saying? Yeah, just we have to reflect Christ's love in everything we do. I think that's the most romantic type of love we can reflect. Like if you reflect Christ says that he wants to give us everything that we need. And that's what we should be doing in our relationships, just giving the other person everything that they need in a relationship. That doesn't mean like buying them cars or houses and stuff. Because honestly, guys, some of us are broke. We don't have the money to buy people cars and houses and watches and everything else. But that doesn't mean that you can't be romantic. You just have to reflect the love that Christ has for you. Putting all that aside, if you don't have money, don't start trying to buy people things. I've been broke in relationships before trying to buy gifts. I know what it's like. Don't do it. It's not worth it because you're going to get to the end of that relationship and then you're going to say, but I bought you all these things and I did all these things and now the relationship is over. So just be who you are, love like Christ loves, and at the end of it, if it ends, you won't be broke. Yeah? Go on.
Ropa has said in the comments, just because Solomon was a player doesn't mean he wasn't romantic. You can't have 300 wives and not to be romantic.
Each to their own. Let's say each to their own, you know? Each to their own.
Me personally, I would like my husband to have one wife, but I mean, listen, Ropa, if you don't mind the 299 extra volunteers, then I wish you happiness. So yes, that is a very good point. Does anyone else have anything to add? How do we do romance in a godly way?
Actually, I got another question. This is from someone in essay saying, does being romantic have to do with materialistic things? I think the answer is no. You're listening. And I got my auntie who texted me saying that the time for romance and affection and love should best be reserved for marriage and the display for love and affection in a relationship in terms of courtships will only be shown when every question has been answered about that person. So, sorry, these are just questions that and additions that are coming from people. And then answering to your question, Fari, in terms of how best can romance be displayed in a Christian relationship? Was that your question? I think she's gone, but yeah.
Yeah, no, Fari's question was basically about how we can display romance apart from just material things. And I suppose it's the concept of reflecting God as young Christians in our relationships. It's not, I think her question basically ties to, can we be romantic without the material aspects of things?
Yeah.
Is that your answer then?
Oh yeah, that's my answer. Yeah, we can be. And I think it's about being selfless with that person. So understanding that it's no longer just about you, meeting their needs as well as a person. I'm not saying leave everything that is you for them, but understand that we're not doing this thing as two, not as one. So my opinions don't always, are not always right. Their opinion are also right, and you have to come to an understanding. So being able to communicate is another form of showing romance, I think.
You know what? I was just thinking that the relationship is not always just about you. Like, I know sometimes we look at relationships like, oh, is my partner good for me? Is my partner like this? But I feel like you can actually learn a little bit about yourself in that relationship. You may realize actually you're not as, you know, kind as you thought you were. You're not as selfless, you know, you actually work on it. And I think it's actually being intentional about the relationship. Like when you see when your partner communicates to you that, you know, there's something, you know, that, you know, they wish you could do, you know, I think it's being intentional and saying, okay, you know, because I care about this relationship, I'm going to work on it, and, you know, I'm going to do my best. So I think it's actually being able to listen to what your partner needs. And it's also, like you've said earlier, Alan, learning like your partner's love language. And being able to communicate that you care about them in that way. So yeah, I think that's how you can show romance. And actually, you know, I think also just, yeah, asking God to help you to develop into like a better version of yourself constantly as you go through that relationship.
I have a point as well.
Fari, you're muted.
Yeah, Alan, go ahead.
Oh, okay. My point is I'm just going back a little bit. I wrote 3 points here when people were talking. You know, when you're talking about representing God, I think the previous question, representing God in our relationships, right? I think most of the times we pray for the right relationships, but how we run our relationships is different from what we prayed for. So what am I saying? No matter how we pray, right? And no matter how we think that we are praying, how we run our relationship determines if the master is involved or not, right? So how we run a relationship on a day-to-day basis, it will determine if God is involved in that relationship or not. And also, if we shouldn't call on God to be, you know, to bless our relationship if the plan we have in our relationship doesn't involve him at all. And you find that sometimes we have our own plan as couples, and then when things go wrong, that's when you want to go back to God and say, oh, by the way, God, can you give us that syllabus you wrote for couples, right? But instead of us, you know, having that syllabus at the very beginning, thereby not having problems in the end. So all I'm just saying is we should be intentional, not just praying about God being involved in the whole relationship, but also running that relationship as though God was the third partner in that relationship as well.
Okay, I think Fari has disappeared again. Sorry, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay, yeah, I think my Wi-Fi is telling me that we have now come to the end. So just as a final question, to each of you, if you just give us one sentence, 2 sentences max. We'll start from Sophie because she's first on my screen. What have you learned about yourself within your relationship?
Okay. For me, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that I suck at communication, and it's something that I I will definitely, I think I really hear everyone saying being intentional about things, and sometimes you don't realize that you suck at something or you not good at something. So I think for me, the biggest thing that I've learned is communication is extremely important. And even though I may feel like I'm communicating, sometimes the way that person receives it is not necessarily how I am planning on giving it to them, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Okay, very good. Alan, give us one thing that you've learned about yourself in this relationship.
As in my current relationship?
I would hope so.
Okay. I've learned to be someone that's a good listener, and someone that appreciates my partner in the smallest things they do, not just looking for things that I think that they should be appreciated for, but just appreciating the small little things they do in the relationship. And it has also taught me to be someone who is patient and someone who is more loving and understanding.
Very important. Vimbai?
What have I learned? I've learned a lot, but I'll just say one thing, that it's okay to be vulnerable, because I've been a person who deals with my own issues. I'm the I got it all together type of person. So I've learned it's okay to be vulnerable with another person. They can actually listen and hear, you know, don't be that I got it all together person all the time.
Okay, Nonsi?
Just like Sophie, I actually learned that I'm not really a great communicator, like when I'm upset. So my boyfriend actually like always wants me to just be straight up about like how I'm feeling. And that was really challenging for me at first, because I'm the kind of person that like takes time to really think about things. And I know like in other people may think, you know, you're just allowing a problem to fester, but like just taking time to think about it so that I know I can build up the courage to now come and tell him if like I'm upset about something. And I've had to learn to just, you know, trust that, you know, he actually cares about me and wants to know exactly how like I'm feeling. So I should just come and just tell him. So that was really a nice lesson to learn. Yeah.
Very good. Andile?
Yeah, I think I've learned to be a bit more patient. I think like Nonsi's boyfriend, I always say to my girlfriend, just tell me what's happening. Like, I don't like, what I hate is just, I know something is wrong, but then being told, oh, I don't know how to say it yet, so just wait, I'll tell you later. Like, I didn't like that at first, but I've learned that, you know, you've got to let people take their time in telling you how they're feeling. Like as guys, sometimes we're sort of like, you know, I just want to like know the problem and then see if we can sort it out straight away. But sometimes just accepting that somebody has to sort of like think about it, and maybe it might not be a problem later on. And yeah. I've learned that I'm a very disorganized person as well. I thought I was an organized person before, but I'm really not. There's schedules for schedules. It's yeah.
It's a very good lesson. You can't see them, but they are here. Tari, can you tell us something that you've learned in your relationship?
Oh, we want video.
You know what? My relationship with God has taught me that.
That wasn't the question, honey.
Okay, you know what? It's fine. My relationship has taught me that, as Vimbai said, that I can be vulnerable. I was never someone who could be vulnerable. And it has also taught me that I can be loved outside of God's love.
That's a very important lesson. Dion?
My relationship has taught me that I talk too much. It's taught me that I need to, in as much as I'm a good listener, but I can do better. I always thought I was good, but yeah, definitely can do better.
Amen. I can't lie, guys. All of these lessons are very powerful. I'm sure anyone who's seen this has taken some kind of inspiration for you guys. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Did you share what you've learned?
Do you know the reason that Tari called me into this is because she knows just how single I am. And I think her exact statement was, no, Fari, we need someone to represent singleness. Yeah, listen, basically, I have come to learn from you guys. So I myself have learned a lot. But I can tell you what I've learned in my singleness. I have learned that to be honest, I've actually learned a lot about myself in terms of the fact that I need God a lot more than I was giving him credit for. So before, when I was in a relationship previously, mine and God's relationship had slacked quite a bit. But God had to take that relationship out of my life for him to say that, listen, first of all, you need to put me first. And so now I'm at the point in my life where if anybody does approach me, the first lens that I now look through is God's lens. And I think that's a lesson, something that I think, Andile, you said before, that first you have to see things through God. And then if you can pass the God barrier, then we can move forward. But that's been actually a very, very important lesson that I need to learn for myself. But yes, this was very, very, very inspiring. I feel we have all been motivated. So just to close, Sophie, do you mind closing with a word of prayer for us, please?
Sure. Let's pray. Thank you, God, for the beautiful day that you've given us. Thank you for this insightful lesson. Hopefully that when people are listening to this, they are able to see the different opinions that maybe they may resonate in their life and that they may change. I also pray that everyone on this panel is able to reflect you in their lives as well as in their relationships. As we go to sleep, may you please protect us and may you please be with us. Amen.
Amen. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for being with us through the whole Testimonies and Tea series. I hope you guys have taken away some very important lessons. If you've missed any of the videos, they are all on YouTube. So please make sure you watch them. Are blessed. And I hope you guys have a great week and we will see you very soon. Goodbye and good night.
Thank you.